Hello and welcome back to Dylan Does Education. Today we're going to be focusing on your English language GCSE and how to get the top marks in each of the 4 questions in paper 1. So we're looking at paper 1 today, and the first question will ask you, list 4 details from probably a small paragraph at the start of the text, maybe I'll say from line 1 to 5, and it will ask you to list 4 details about a certain topic that the test is about, and that's literally it. If you don't get that right, I don't think there's a point of you doing the rest of the paper, because you literally just have, you just have to pick out the quotes they will say. That's probably the easiest way to do it, and that's literally question 1. Question 2 will ask you to look at language features, which is your techniques, such as similes, metaphors, motifs, that kind of thing, and then it'll ask you to look at word types, such as your verbs, your adverbs, adjectives, and then it will ask you for sentence types, complex, compound, simple, and stuff like that. All you have to do is pick out those kind of techniques. And say how, well, it'll ask you in the question, how does it demonstrate this or that. Now, in relation to that, it will also ask you to do it from a certain part of the source. It won't ask you to do it from the whole source because, well, you basically have an endless supply. So we usually say, I don't know, maybe 20 to 35, give you about 10 lines, which is definitely enough to get your feet stuck into. I'm not sure that's the expression, but we'll go with it. Moving on to question 3 now, though. This asks you about structure. Possibly one of the easier questions. Well, there's only 4, well, 5. If you know what you're doing, because I've got it all here, and this is basically what you need to talk about. If you follow the structure, you're golden. Now, basically, you need to talk about all these things. You might want to get a pen and I'll list them down. You can talk about your changes in character perspective, which is either first to third person switch or different characters perspective first person. Move from general to specific in detail in the text, or it could be specific to general. Links between the beginning and the end of the paragraph, or between characters and themes. The importance of time, for example, like the links between the past and the present. The tone, changing from light to dark, optimistic to pessimistic. Foreshadowing, which is an advanced sign, a warning or something that is to come. Clues about identity of the murderer if it was a crime novel. Changes in the atmosphere, for example, to relaxed to tense. And changes in the character, it could be physical or emotional. Also in question 3, it will probably ask you, well, it will list 3 bullet points, and it will ask you how it changes between beginning, middle and end. Now, if you're aiming for higher marks, you can go for some sort of equilibrium. You could look at, obviously don't mention this, but if you Google Todorov's theory, you can basically copy that, but don't write Todorov unless you're doing media studies, like in the previous video. It'll ask you you can mention about the equilibrium, the start, and how it changes from how there's a disruption, a recognition, the repair, and then possibly a new equilibrium. Again, there doesn't have to be a new equilibrium, just like in media studies. Moving on to question 4 now, and this will basically give you a quote from a student, quote unquote. Definitely not a student, probably an examiner with some sort of pencil up his arse, making a ridiculous quote that sounds like something that a 4-year-old could do. Anyway, it will give you this quote, and you have to either agree or disagree. Maybe it's like the writer uses good words here to create a tense atmosphere. You have to either agree or disagree. My opinion in this, that I got from my teacher, obviously, that you should always start off by agreeing, because even though you probably will end up disagreeing, you've got to give some sort of balanced argument. You got to say why it's good and why it's bad, and how maybe it could be improved. Start off with agreeing. That's always probably the best thing to do. And you have to basically give a mix of question 2 and question 3, so looking at structural techniques and then looking at the language features again. Go back to the video if you want to see that bit again. Anyway, it will basically give you the entire text, and you will have to either agree with, disagree, or the quote. That's probably the hardest question, and I always try to rush through the first 3 if I can, especially question 1. That takes you, what, a minute and a half, probably 2 at the max, which means you probably get extra time for question number 4. Now, question number 5, I can't remember if it's called question 5 or 4B or something like that, will either ask you to write a narrative piece or a descriptive piece. I always choose the description. Well, I don't. I used to choose the narrative, but I've learned now the description is a lot easier. It will either give you a picture, or for a narrative, it will give you either a title or it could give you a word, a phrase that you have to use in the story. It can be quite broad. You can pretty much write about anything if you're doing the narrative, but I would suggest doing the description because it will usually give you a picture. And I'd suggest start looking at the stuff that's not directly in front of you. Say if you had I don't know, a windmill, I'd concentrate on the stuff behind, like the mise en scène, behind the lighting, stuff like that, and what the people are doing in the background, and then work your way towards the middle. That's probably the best thing to do so you don't run out of stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the picture one. Again, you've got to go into lots of detail using all your adjectives, all your stuff that you've done for question 1, 2, and 3. In fact, I'd often go through the text while you're reading it because it can give you some really good ideas. Obviously, you've got the text in front of you as long as it's a good text. Unlike if you get something like Macbeth, which really annoys me because I cannot understand a word that they're saying. And if I get a text like that in the exam, I'm screwed. And yes, I am going through this exam with you guys. I'm year 11. I don't know how long this channel is going to go on for because I only have a few weeks of exams left. This is just something to design. I just designed this to help you guys maybe if you're stuck with your exams, and make sure to let me in the comments know what you're actually doing. So that was the English language paper 1. I will be doing a part 2 on paper 2, which is, in my opinion, the harder paper. So if you can smash paper 1 out of the way, question 2, well, should be no problem. Obviously, in my literature exam, I only got a 4. In this, I'm planning to try and get a 7 over an 8 if I'm feeling quite good. Obviously, I've got a history exam on that day as well, so if I were to do really good in my English, I'll probably do really bad in my history, which is what is probably going to happen anyway. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to click like and tell me in the comments down below what you want to see me review and go over. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.